The Atlanta Braves have to once again attempt to replace an all-star level player, this time Austin Riley, who's out for the rest of the regular season. We'll talk about potential replacements for Austin Riley. You cannot replace Austin Riley, but we'll see what the Braves can come up with on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani, and you can follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, feedback that you have. You want to send in a crying emoji, you can do that as well, because I certainly understand that and feel that right now for Atlanta Braves fans. If you're new and watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button as well, so others can find us here at Locked On Braves. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below, especially if you're an everydayer. Let me know that down in the comments on YouTube. If you're listening on the audio version, make sure you leave me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And thank you so much to all my everydayers and everybody out there who makes Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. That's right, 5 days a week. It's your turn, your team every day here at Locked On. Today's episode, we'll talk about Austin Riley's injury news, the unfortunate fallout from that, and we'll look at some potential replacements for him. Options aren't great. I'll go ahead and spoil it. The options are not great for the Atlanta Braves right now, but we'll see what we can find. Before we get into all that, though, now through September the 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, it's the news that we all were kind of expecting after Sunday and Austin Riley leaving that game. It's the news that nobody wanted, but it's the news we got. Austin Riley, fractured hand, out 6 to 8 weeks is what they labeled it. 6 weeks from today, the season will be over. So even if you look at the most optimistic timeline and he gets back as soon as possible, it's likely going to be too late. The only reason they're not saying he's out for the season is because there is the chance that if the Braves get into the postseason and perhaps make it out of the first round, maybe even the second round, that he could be back at some point during the postseason. But for all intents and purposes, Austin Riley's done for the rest of the regular season. And that's just the unfortunate news with the injury that he sustained on Sunday, getting hit by that pitch. And you now look at it with this Atlanta Braves team in 2024. And I joked about it earlier. It really does make you want to cry. This is a team coming into the season that just had so much excitement, so much talent, where you knew you'd tune in every night and see one of the most fun teams in baseball to watch. And baseball can be a brutal sport sometimes, because this has been one of my least favorite teams to watch in a long time. And look, there's still been some good talent there. The pitching has been great. Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, what Spencer Schwellenbach has done. Offense in particular, I guess more so, is where this comment is directed, has been hard to watch this year. And you would have never thought that coming in with Ronald, with Riley, with Olsen in the year he was coming off of. Michael Harris, who I thought was ready to take a step forward, but injuries have really hurt him. Ozzie Albies, I mean, you go on down the list. It's just been a frustrating season. And I know there are a lot of these lists going around right now. I pulled this one from @Bill Shanks on X. Games missed due to injuries by Braves players this season. Spencer Strider, 117. Ronald Acuna, 74. Michael Harris, 52. Sean Murphy, 49. AJ Minter, 35. Ozzie Albies, 34. Max Fried, 13. Austin Riley, 14. Ronaldo Lopez, 13. Pierce Johnson, 11. It's not just that the Braves have been had a lot of injuries this year. I hate to say, injury prone. And some of these you just can't help. You can't help upper 90s sinker that's running in on your hands. That's just unfortunate. The thing is, you have lost, and I know I've said it multiple times, and I'm going to keep saying it, you lost the best player in baseball in Ronald Acuna Jr. within the first 2 months of the season. You lost the NL Cy Young favorite coming into the year in Spencer Strider. I mean, you arguably lost two of the best players in all of baseball in the first 2 months of the season. You spent significant time without Austin Riley, or are you going to now spend significant time without Austin Riley, who has already missed some time, and a guy that's been a perennial MVP candidate? You've missed a significant time and are going to miss more time with Ozzie Albies, who's a perennial all-star. Sean Murphy, I've talked about. I know some people are not impressed with him. I was excited about him coming into this year. He gets hurt on opening day. It's not just that they've had so many injuries. It's so many injuries to your best players. And the Braves have a lot of them, but all of your best players are getting injured for significant time. It's not like some of these are just, for Michael Harris, it wasn't that he just missed a couple of weeks with a slight hamstring injury. He missed a couple months. And same for Ozzie Albies. It's been a very, very frustrating year for injuries for this Atlanta Braves team. One of the worst ones that I can remember. And look, I remember seeing it in the offseason. A lot of people were talking about just how fortunate the Braves were last year, that they really didn't have many injuries at all offensively, that whole lineup was intact pretty much all season long from beginning to end. And so you knew there had to be a little bit of regression, not just for the production the offense had last year, but just for the lack of injuries they had last year as well. But again, to hit this many significant players for this much time, I just don't know that any team is built to overcome that. And it's going to be a tough road for this Braves team the rest of the way just to hold on to a postseason spot. And we've talked about this, and we talked about it on Monday's podcast. The expectations for this team, I'm sorry, if you get upset at this team the rest of the way, I don't know what to tell you. Look, there's still good players here. It's still a really good pitching staff. I expect them to win. I still expect them to make the postseason. If they don't, I'm not going to sit here and say Snicker needs to be fired, Alex Anthopoulos needs to be fired. If you're still on that train with everything that's happened to this team this year, you're just looking to be angry because this team has faced just an unimaginable amount of injuries and bad luck for that matter. We discussed that yesterday. But getting back to the Austin Riley injury, this is a guy who has been one of the best hitters in baseball since June 1st. And it's a guy that got off to a slow start, as many hitters on the Braves and otherwise did this year. A lot of hitters, a lot of really good hitters got off to slow starts this year. But Austin Riley had still really started to pick it up since June 1st. He had the 9th best WAR in the National League at 2.2 since June 1st. He was 12th in home runs and 30th in WRC plus in all of Major League Baseball over that stretch, slashing 275, 339, 531. So he was looking much like the Austin Riley that we were used to. Essentially, he's been a top 20 player in all of baseball, a top 10 to 15 player in the National League for the last 2.5 months. So I saw one random person on social media saying Austin Riley hasn't really been that good this year anyway. Check the last 2.5 months. He's been the Austin Riley that we are used to. What you're also going to be missing here is a Gold Glove level player. Hopefully he still wins it. I don't think he will, because I think, you missed this significant amount of time. You probably won't. Somehow Baseball Savant has him as a -3 run value defensively, which again just goes to show you still cannot trust defensive metrics out there. They're good nice to look at, especially if you don't, I can't watch every player of every team every night. So I can't give you, what I think a player is defensively just on my eyes, which I think is still the ultimate test for defense. Anybody that watches Austin Riley on a nightly basis knows that he is a great defensive player at third base. But just the fact that the metrics that a lot of people use on Baseball Savant has him as a below average defender is just hilarious, because again, anybody that watches Austin Riley knows that he has played at a Gold Glove level all season long. So again, you're missing a top 20 bat and you're missing a Gold Glove defender now in Austin Riley. That's what you're trying to replace for the next 2.5 months with this Braves team. And I see Antonio Alcácer saying next man up. How that's been the mentality, that's been the mantra for this Braves team all year long. But how many next men up do you have to call on before you finally say enough is enough? We just can't withstand it at this point with the number of significant losses that they've taken. So again, we'll talk about it here next. We'll get into some of the options, both internal and maybe one external. Yes, I know the trade deadline is over, but there are still ways to get other players. So we'll discuss that here next. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. That's a pretty incredible offer. I've had a lot of offers, obviously, doing this podcast. That's one of the better ones that I can remember, especially if you're an NFL fan. And then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel any time that you want. So make sure you visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. While you're there, you're going to see same-day parlays for Major League Baseball. They have award winner odds out there right now. Chris Sale, the favorite for the NL Cy Young. You can see all that again at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you for making Locked On Braves your first listen today. For your second listen, make sure you enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast, solely getting you ready for the final stretch of the regular season and the postseason. You can check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, let's get to the impossible task now of replacing Austin Riley, because it just is. It's impossible. You will not be able to at this point in the season. Look, even if the trade deadline were open, you're probably not going to replace Austin Riley and all that production that I just gave to you. You can't replace that. But who gives you the best option to have a functional offense the rest of the way? Because I'll get to my conclusion at the beginning here. For me, when I'm thinking about a replacement for Austin Riley, I'm looking at who gives you the best chance offensively. You live with whatever defense I think you get from whoever you put at third base. Defense at third base for not a priority for me right now when I'm talking about replacing Austin Riley. Put the best guy over there that is going to help you offensively, because that's what this team needs. And then you just live with whatever they give you defensively over there. Now, Luke Williams is obviously already on the roster. He's the guy that replaced Austin Riley. He is not someone I think you want getting an extended look. He is somebody that comes in a game, in the middle of a game, as a defensive replacement, or if somebody gets injured. I don't think he's going to be the guy that you want starting there every day for the next 2.5 or the next month and a half. He has hit really well at AAA this year. We're going to talk about some other guys who have hit really well at AAA this year. That doesn't always translate. So I don't think Luke Williams is going to be the guy. He is not getting a rose, or however that show works. Nacho Alvarez. Right now he's dealing with pneumonia. He struggled in his first taste of the big leagues again. Probably rushed up too soon. A young guy. I'm not holding that against him, but it also had been a little bit of a struggle for him going back to AAA. Now he's dealing with pneumonia. Maybe he gets a chance at some point, but I don't think he's going to be the first one to get a chance here with the Braves. Now, the next two are the guys that I think are most likely, at least in the short term, to get an opportunity. First one is Alejo Lopez. He would need to be added to the 40-man roster. That shouldn't be too much of an issue. He's 28 years old, been a utility player, 64 games at AAA this year, at third base at AAA this year, so that's where he's played the most. He's having a fantastic season. He's slashing .308, .394, .393, so not a lot of power there. 17 doubles, just 3 home runs, 40 walks, 56 strikeouts, 21 stolen bases. So not your typical profile for a third baseman. Would be a big loss in the power department. But again, that's going to be pretty much anybody when you're stepping down from Austin Riley. But potentially somebody that brings some on base and speed to the lineup. And again, I think whoever you're going to be bringing up, they're going to be batting in the bottom third of the order. So Alejo Lopez, I think, is somebody that could get a look. The other guy who we talked about on yesterday's podcast, if you haven't already, make sure you go give that a listen, is Yuli Gurriel. Again, would need to be added to the 40-man. Shouldn't be an issue. 40 years old. So this would be a veteran of veterans to what is already becoming a very veteran-laden group. 2-time World Series champion with the Houston Astros. Gold Glove winner back in the day. I would not expect that. And a batting title winner back in the day as well. And he is also having a very good season at AAA, slashing .300, .380, .498, 18 doubles, 12 home runs, 36 walks to 46 strikeouts, and 11 stolen bases from the 40-year-old. That has been surprising. Veteran hitter. Again, he has shown a little pop. He's shown a little speed. this year as well. He's great at putting the ball in play, just a 14% strikeout rate. So that could be, a benefit for this team. Again, the bottom of the lineup, somebody that's going to put the ball in play. The issue with Yuli Gurriel is, though, he hasn't played much third base at all, really, since 2019. He's played 2 innings there since 2019, both of those coming in 2021. Could you potentially put him at second base and move Whit Merrifield to third base? I think that's a possibility. Mark Bowman of MLB.com said the Braves don't plan to move Bobby Witt. I wish we had Bobby Witt. Don't plan to move Whit Merrifield to third base right now. But I think that could be a potential way to get Yuli Gurriel up there, as if you were to move Whit Merrifield to third base and maybe put Yuli Gurriel at second base, where he has played a little bit more this season, but he's mostly been playing first base DH. Another option is Brian Anderson. He would have to be added back to the 40-man roster. He was taken off earlier in the year. Injury cost him a chance for some playing time in the outfield earlier this year. I thought he might get more of a look there, but he unfortunately got injured at the wrong time. He's hitting just .232 since coming back from an injury on July 25th. He went down to AAA after he got DFA'd, had another injury, came back July 25th, and hasn't really been hitting much since then. So I don't think he's going to be the option, but he obviously has a ton of experience at third base from his days back in Miami. Zach Short, also available. I feel like we've kind of been there, done that with Zach Short. He had a good little week run earlier in the year when Austin Riley was out, but I think we've seen enough of the Zach Short experience. I don't think I want to relive that again. Now, the other fit, the external fit, is Gio Urshela. He was recently DFA'd by the Tigers, so he could be had here. 240/243, 286, 333 this year with 10 doubles, 5 homers, and 92 games. He's making just $1.5 million this year. Good defense at third base and a good contact hitter. Here's the dilemma I think you have. You're looking at this is that, do you go with a guy who has struggled at the big league level this year and Gio Urshela, or do you go with one of the guys who's been hitting really good at AAA this year and either Yuli Gurriel or Alejo Lopez? It's a big jump, especially this year. It feels like it is a big jump from AAA to the major leagues. We've seen plenty of players this year. Again, not just for the Braves. I follow other teams as well, and I see this across the league. This year especially, that jump. You saw with Jackson Holliday, the number 1 prospect. First time he got called up, just was completely overmatched at the big league level. He's gone back down. He's come up, and he's looked much better. And again, that was earlier in the year where offense was just completely down across the league. But do you go with that guy who's, again, been struggling but been okay at the big leagues this year? Or do you go with that guy at AAA who's been good all year and maybe he can carry that over to the big league level? I think that's a decision you have to make. Like, Gio's somebody that is external and somebody that maybe you take a chance on now and just see if it works out. And if not, then maybe you give Yuli Gurriel or Alejo Lopez a chance because you already have those guys. And maybe that's the way that the Braves go. But I think for me, it's one of those three. It's either you go out and get Gio Urshela, and look, it's no guarantee. It has to get to the Braves in the waiver process, or you give Alejo Lopez or Yuli Gurriel a chance. Again, none of this is ideal. None of these guys are ideal. And I believe all of these players are going to be a huge step back from Austin Riley. But it's what you have to work with at this point. Now, when Ozzie comes back, maybe that gets a little bit better because then you could put him at second and put Whit Merrifield at third base. We don't know exactly when Ozzie's going to be back at this point. We're hoping, first, second week of September, but that's on the optimistic outlook for Ozzie Albies. For the time being, these are your options for third base. And I don't think you're going to see anything crazy. Like I've seen people mention, moving Matt Olson to third base, putting Marcell Ozuna at first base and having Jorge Soler in the DH spot. I don't think we're going to get that wild here. We'll see. Stranger things have happened. I never thought I'd see Freddie Freeman playing third base, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And look, I said earlier, I don't really care what you get defensively at third base. Give me somebody who can bring some offense. But I don't think I want to see a corner infield of Matt Olson and Marcell Ozuna anytime soon. I don't think we're quite that desperate yet. But again, I think the best options are either Gio Urshela, Yuli Gurriel, or Alejo Lopez. I think those are the guys that are probably going to get the first shot. Now, looking at some of your comments, Eon LWOS said Adam Duvall, and I told him to immediately get out of here. We're not putting Adam Duvall at third base. If we don't see Adam Duvall in the lineup again this year, I think I will be okay. Dylan Short says lineup of Soler, Michael Harris, Ozuna, Matt Olson, the catchers, then Laureano, Kelnick, Urshela, and Whit Merrifield. I think that's fine. And that lineup honestly doesn't look too bad, especially if Laureano keeps playing the way he has. And then you get Ozzie Albies back. Obviously looks a little better. Again, we're hoping that nobody else gets injured before that happens. But I think I'm okay with that lineup. And I think the Braves can still win with that lineup. So that's one for Urshela. Eddie says, last time they did the four-man booth on Bally's, the Chippers had his gleam in his eye. I heard some others saying that Chipper, Braves and Bama said Chipper make a 6-week return. I'll be honest. I've seen worse predictions or worse possible suggestions for the Braves at third base than Chipper Jones returning. It would not surprise me if he comes back and hits 260. But I don't think Chipper Jones is coming out of retirement. Jesse Bradley says Robinson Cano. Chris says Yuli Gurriel, if he can still play third base until Ozzie gets back. A lot of you saying Yuli Gurriel. I don't know if that's been pumped up because of the podcast yesterday. Again, I don't know that he can play third base. He just hasn't done it in a long time. I haven't personally watched him much this year at AAA. I think he gives you that veteran bat, though. He might be the best offensively. But again, that even still is a big question mark. I've seen some people say David Fletcher. I've said this before. I don't think David Fletcher is playing in Major League Baseball again. I don't know what's taking so long on these investigation for the gambling situation there. They got it done so quickly for Shohei Ohtani, but I guess they've forgotten about David Fletcher. He's not a big enough star, doesn't have a big enough presence, but I don't think he's playing Major League Baseball again. And I think the Braves would just have him down in purgatory until they get the results of that investigation. So David Fletcher, would not be a terrible option if he were available. I don't think he's available. I don't think the Braves are going to go that route. Some people talked about Ahmed Rosario. The Reds picked him up. So he's no longer an option. I think that happened before the Riley injury news hit. Saw somebody in the comments section live say that Nick Ahmed was DFA'd. He's a defensive first guy. And like I said earlier, I'm not as concerned about defense. Give me somebody that can give you some offense. That's what this lineup needs more than anything. Double A says, can I play third? I played 1 year at third in high school, and it was the scariest thing to me is always playing shortstop. You get to move up. I know in the major leagues they play back a little bit, but that hot corner can be very, very hot. And it felt very different for me, somebody that played shortstop the majority of my life. But yeah, I'll pick it over there if they need me to. I probably won't hit. I'd be much better defensively. Not that that's saying much. But again, I'm looking for offense from this position. But a lot of you saying Yuli, Jason Reynolds, Mac McGuire, both saying Yuli Gurriel. Greg saying Urshela. Another vote for Urshela there. Anthony saying TDA and hope nobody hits the ball to third base. Again, I don't think they're going to do anything that drastic, but hey, it'd be a way to get both of those catchers in the lineup. We've been talking about it. How do you get Sean Murphy and Travis d'Arnaud in there? Maybe put one of them at third base. Maybe put Sean Murphy over there at third base. Again, I don't think that's going to happen. But these are the options. And again, I think it's either going to be Lopez, Gurriel, or Urshela. Braves will probably do something that we're not even thinking of, that we didn't even know was possible, because that's the way that Alex Anthopoulos works. But either way, it's not a great situation. Hayden Harris, Omar Infante, I would love to get him. Can I get him and Martin Prado? Please. Would love to have one of those guys back. But yeah, it's not a great situation for the Braves. I mean, make no mistake about it. It is going to be a huge downgrade from whoever they can find to replace Austin Riley right now. And it's a huge blow to this Atlanta Braves team, who now has to go and face the Philadelphia Phillies and Zach Wheeler on Tuesday night. So it is just, it's terrible timing whenever, but when you're getting ready to face your division rivals, you're trying to hopefully make one more last push for the division, and then you lose one of your best players. But that's what the Braves will be trying to do on Tuesday. We'll preview that matchup in the Phillies series here next. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. because unlike on other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. It's that easy. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And get this, you're getting geared up for football season. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you a 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. That's 4 weeks of free wins. And I'm going to be honest, I don't even know who Caleb Williams plays for, but I'm going to imagine that guy can get more than 1 yard. I do know he played at USC. I don't know where he's playing for the NFL. Let me know down in the comment section below, but you get pretty much a free pick with him all September long. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including Georgia and Alabama. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. So with the terrible news and with the Atlanta Braves hanging on for a final postseason spot, they now get to go up against the Philadelphia Phillies. And look, the Phillies have been struggling in the second half of the season as well. And I guess there is some good news in this. The Braves are getting Ronaldo Lopez back, but it's a guy that hasn't pitched at the major leagues this month. And he comes back against this Phillies team in a big series. Again, if you think there's still a shot at the division, as I said yesterday, I don't think there is. I think the division is gone at this point, especially after losing Austin Riley. But as Bill says, just sweep both of these upcoming series against the Phils. And then maybe you have a chance. They are 7 games back. There's 7 games left. So you're telling me there's a chance, Bill, that it's got to start on Tuesday with Lopez going up against Wheeler. Ronaldo Lopez hasn't pitched, as I said, since July 28th. And in that start, he only threw 3 innings before getting removed. He gave up 3 earned on 6 hits and a walk in 4 innings in his lone rehab start, throwing 71 pitches. So I cannot imagine that he's going to throw more than 80 to 85 pitches in this one. He was brilliant against the Phillies back on July 7th. 6 innings, just 2 hits, did walk 3, but no earned runs and 6 strikeouts. I'll be honest, I don't love this matchup for him. I know the Phillies have been struggling. The offense maybe been a little bit down. It's more so been their pitching, though. I think the offense is okay. But you got Ronaldo Lopez coming back after, an okay rehab assignment, after not pitching in a couple of weeks at the big league level. You face this Phillies team. I don't love it for Ronaldo Lopez. And again, a guy that's probably not going to throw more than 80, 85 pitches. So you're going to be starting off this series having to use a lot of your bullpen arms. And you're going up against Zach Wheeler, who has the second best odds to win the NL Cy Young, according to FanDuel, behind Chris Sale. In his last 7 starts, it's a 2.72 ERA, a 0.98 whip, and 50 strikeouts in 43 innings. He had a rough start against the Yankees at the end of July, but he's been back to his dominant self over his last 3 starts. He tossed 6 shutout innings against the Braves on opening day. That ended very well for the Braves, but was not a good start there. He's really, really good. That's about all you need to know. Zach Wheeler, one of the best in the game. Now, the Phillies stats over the last 30 days, 13th in OPS, 9th in average, 16th in on-base percentage. So, again, they've still been a top 10, top 15 offense. 20th in home runs, though. 19th in walks, is good. 10th in stolen bases, though, not good for a Braves team that gets ran on a lot. They're 20th in ERA and whip and 21st in average over those last 30 days. So like I said, the pitching has taken a step back, but it's mainly been in the rotation and not the guys that the Braves are going to face. It's been regression for Christopher Sanchez. It's been an injury for Ranger Suarez, which has caused them to push guys in the rotation like Tyler Phillips and our old friend Colby Allard. So that's really been the struggles of this Phillies team here lately. But the Braves are going to get 2 of their best in Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola in this series. We'll see who they throw out in the 3rd game. Estevez, who they got from the Angels, has been a really good addition for them in their bullpen, as guys like Jeff Hoffman and Jose Alvarado have been struggling more recently. So, again, that was a good trade for them at the deadline. But that's the matchup on Tuesday night as the Braves try to sweep this series, see if they can get back in that division race. Thank you for making Locked On Braves your first to listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully. Check that out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Tomorrow we'll discuss the Tuesday game, but I also want to do a deep dive into the Braves' struggles with runners in scoring position this year. I feel like it's been really bad, so I want to check out the numbers. What does it look like in 2 outs? What does it look like in 2 strike situations? Because it feels like they've been one of the worst teams in baseball. I'm going to run the numbers and see if that's true. The Braves and Phillies play at 7:20 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday night. It'll be Zach Wheeler versus Ronaldo Lopez. Catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks so much to SoCal, Windgracer, On a Mission for Truth, Injured Thrills, Jessica, I see you changing that name up there, Injured Thrills from Braves Thrills, Jessica, John Lee, Bill Winningham, Trip, Double A. Thank you all for joining. Docs Cards, thank you in here as well. Saw you earlier, Kristen. I appreciate you all joining me here live on this episode tonight of Locked On Braves. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Follow us on social media at ShortstopBall, at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.